Hi there, I'm Scott Lowe with ActualTech Media. We're here live from ZertoCon 2019. We're joined by Steve Blow, who is a technology evangelist for Zerto. Steve, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
So we're going to talk about application consistency.
Correct. So there's obviously many ways you can think about application consistency. In this instance, we're going to be looking at the application as a whole, where it encompasses all of the services that make up that application. So if we look at, a traditional architecture,
Sure.
we're going to focus on virtualization in this instance. So you obviously have your virtualization server, VMware, Hyper-V, whatever that is. And then you have your applications running on here. Now, your applications today probably are not going to be made up of a single VM. They're going to be made up of multiple VMs, all running different services. So you're going to have, your web servers. You're going to have your application servers. And then let's say you've got your DB servers as well. Excuse my drawing. And then obviously underneath the hypervisor, you've got your storage tier. So you've got your storage running under there. Now, traditionally, when you look at how these are protected, in order to get consistency across all of these VMs, so when you're protecting them as one. Mm-hmm. The only way that you could really deliver that was a LUN-based replication.
Right.
So replicating over to storage on a different site. Now, the challenge with that is that all of the VMs had to be in the same LUN, therefore they were on the same disk tier.
Yeah, it created some constraints that were hard to work around.
Correct, yeah. You were limited in where they could be placed and things like that. The alternative you could deliver around is where you have products that integrate with the hypervisor and utilize the likes of snapshots, or alternatively agents running in the VMs. Now, the challenge you have with those is it's not a continuous element, it's scheduled. And the nature of snapshots means that when you're scheduling them, you're scheduling each VM individually at a different point in time. Mm-hmm. It might not be a huge amount of time difference, but ultimately they're all from slightly different points in time. So what that means is you end up having each of these VMs protected individually, and they're replicated over to the target side, or stored, the data that you're backing up stored over to the target side. If you then need to recover, when you're recovering each of these VMs to a different point in time, which then means you've then got to fight to get them all back into sync so the application's actually usable again. Mm-hmm. And that whole process can take, often longer than the recovery itself. If you think maybe you're going back to a backup, let's say from, a couple of years ago, you might have lost your in-house knowledge of that application you're trying to recover. And therefore getting things back into sync could be an absolute nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
What Zerto does differently here is, rather than protecting all of your VMs individually, we have what we call virtual protection groups. So you create a virtual protection group. It's where all of the configuration and orchestration is set up as well. Mm-hmm. But when you are creating them, you're choosing which VMs you want to protect in a virtual protection group. So you can select, these are my applications, group them together. This is your VPG. And what that means is when we're replicating, so obviously Zerto's continuous data protection, we're continually replicating over to the target site. And what that means is when we then can recover, because we're protecting them all together, we're inserting checkpoints over on the target side, and we're ensuring that those checkpoints are inserted at the exact same point in time across all of the VMs. Mm-hmm. So when you recover a virtual protection group, you recover the entire application to that one point in time.
So I do have a question. So how are you ensuring that whatever is happening on each individual virtual machine is happening at the exact same time? Are you using a journal of some kind?
Yes, so we have a journal over on the target side. We're ensuring right order fidelity. So if block A is replicated over, or rather block B is replicated over before block A and things, we wait for block A and stuff like that.
Okay.
So there's a lot of intelligence around that to ensure the consistency. But the key thing is, obviously, you get a lot more granularity in there as well. We're inserting checkpoints every 5 seconds, and every one of those is consistent across the VMs here.
Got it. And is there an agent that's running inside the VM to help enable this?
Nope, so no agents in the VMs. It's all done at the hypervisor layer.
Okay.
So utilizing our drivers and capabilities that we have in there, which is obviously all proprietary to Zerto.
Right.
And we're utilizing that to deliver this capability. Now, obviously, that's been in the product for a fair amount of time,
right?
From a disaster recovery perspective. But what we've added in Zerto 7 is long-term retention. So that's then venturing into the backup space where you're storing, for years and years and years. What we can actually deliver is actually you can perform a long-term retention process that creates essentially a backup of your environment from the point in time that you run it. It's performed over on the target side, so it removes production overhead. But the key thing is we're maintaining that consistency across the VMs. And that's unique, really, in the industry from that perspective. We're able to recover your VMs from years ago to a consistent point in time across the entire application.
And at a pretty significant level of granularity as well.
Correct. I mean, obviously, when you're doing the long-term retention piece, that's more run on a schedule because you don't want necessarily that granularity.
You don't need to get to 5 seconds, but what could you do long-term if you really wanted to?
Well, ultimately, it's running on the target side. So the biggest drawback with backup is that you're having an impact on production.
Right.
This removes the production impact, so you're free to run it as is physically possible.
That's cool.
And obviously with the journal, you have up to 30 days with that granularity down in the seconds. So.
Very good. Steve, thank you very much. Is there anything else we should know?
I'm not going to ruin too many secrets at this point in time, but there's lots coming. Obviously, I think you're speaking to a few other Zerto guys this week. So
sounds good. Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.